It's Monday, October 2nd. I'm Geoff Schwartz, and this is Geoff Schwartz. Smarter Than You. We're live on Twitter, YouTube, and we're on your favorite podcast platform of choice. It's our Monday reaction show to the NFL weekend that was. We're brought to you by Prize Picks. It's a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. Go to prizepicks.com and use the code GSSY for a first deposit match up to $100. You pick 2 to 6 players. If they will go more or less than the Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. We will make my picks for Monday Night Football later at the end of the show. Gabe, I've won 2 straight weeks. My Prize Picks have won 3 for 3, 2 straight weeks. I'll give you more at the end of this game. At the end of the show, we have a Giants and Seahawks night on Monday Night Football. Gabe, how are you? Congratulations on your physical feat of the Blue Duck triathlon.
No, don't do that, Jeff. Just stay pod committed. You've been calling these mini triathlons for years. No,
it was impressive.
It actually was mini this year.
It was a team effort, and I appreciate the team working together to accomplish a goal, just like a football team does.
Multiple people who contribute to this show finished the Malibu Triathlon and raised money for Children's Hospital of LA. So it was a good Sunday. Yeah. Thank you.
It's fantastic.
And we were out of the water and back in front of our TVs watching NFL football before we knew it. So we're ready to talk about that today.
We will do that. We're 10-7-1 so far on the season with our gambling. We're 3-0 Broncos right now for the week. The Broncos game was, Matt and I debated about this game and laughed about it the entire day. It was fantastic.
You talked him into it. You wanted to bet the Broncos. And we got and they pushed, so I ended up being okay. No harm, no foul here. No harm, no foul. Okay, before we start on this show, okay, very quickly, can we just stop blaming officials for wins and losses in sports? Like, it is very frustrating how often fans resort to just blaming officials for everything that happens in sports. When your team doesn't get a call, it's the official's fault. They cheat us, okay? You ever notice, Gabe, how the best teams in sports always seem to benefit from officiating? Why do you think that is? It's because the better teams tend to make their own luck, right? They tend to just be able to overcome bad officiating. They're able to make things happen. Bad teams, poor fan bases of teams that stink, they blame the officials for every loss. They blame officials for everything. We gotta stop doing this, man. Like, people that watch the game looking for penalties, penalty hawks, like, you guys are losers. Stop doing that. Just watch the game and enjoy the game for what it is. Stop blaming officials for wins and losses. They do not cost games. Do you know what cost the Jets the game last night? It wasn't the holding call. It was Zach Wilson dropping a shotgun snap, Gabe. That's something that players can control, right? Players can control a lot of things. The Chiefs were handed a bad penalty, right? The one on the horse collar that wasn't a horse collar. And then they proceeded to allow Zach Wilson to look like Joe Montana the rest of the night. That's not the official's fault. That's the Chiefs' defensive fault, right? Yeah, it didn't help that the Jets got 15 yards. Sure, it didn't help, but the Chiefs had opportunities to make plays. So did the Jets. It didn't happen, Gabe. The blaming of officials, man, is like the lowest common denominator. I know you do it as a Patriots hater. You blame the officials for every time the Patriots win a football game. It's just tiring, man. Don't you get tired of doing that? All right, well, I'm supposed to be the voice of the fan here, and I wasn't even going to go to this topic, Jeff, but now we have to. So I watched that fourth quarter, and just as much as you're right, fans got to just relax and stop blaming the officials. Good players make plays, bad players don't, yada, yada, yada. Once again, we watched the most important plays of the day from the Chiefs were aided by officials. A non-holding call on a pat scramble and the pass interference.
That was the defender. Watch that play again, first of all.
I watched it several times. Explain it to me. That's the point of this show.
Donovan Smith holds a lot. He does that a lot. This was not holding. The defender, the pass rusher, ran into the middle of his chest, and Donovan Smith grabbed him up and said, "Nope, no more." And the defender was standing straight up in the air, waving like Forrest Gump at the official. His rush was done. He got blocked. That's called being blocked. Okay? And then, by the way, you want to watch the rest of the play. Smith drove him like 25 yards out of the picture. That wasn't holding. Okay? The holding on Sauce, probably was a bad call.
There you go.
I didn't terribly like it. But again, is that the reason why the Jets lost? Because then Zach Wilson would have had to go, 70 yards to get in field goal range? Like, this idea that, it cost the Jets the game, which is what people are complaining about on the internet, is not all what happened. Bad calls happen. As I mentioned, the Jets got 2 points in this game because the officials messed up a face mask call. Shit happens, man. The Chiefs didn't complain about it. They just kept playing, right? Like, I just don't get this idea that only calls at the end of the game matter. That's not the way it works. And officials miss calls all the time. This officiating crew, I thought, was awful. It doesn't mean that one side or the other gets to blame the officials for wins and losses.
It was a pretty high-profile game with a lot of fancy people in attendance and a lot of reasons why the NFL would have wanted to see one team win over the other. I'm just saying that's what the internet believes.
Did the NFL call down to Patrick Mahomes to throw 2 just god-awful interceptions? Like, hey, buddy, here's Jets. Just take the ball from us, Jets. Here you go, man. They called down to Mahomes for that one there? No, come on, man. It's so frustrating that people, look for penalties, which I think is an insane way to watch a football game. It's crazy to me to watch a football game and watch and be like, oh, there's a penalty. Like, what are we doing, man? Just watch the football game. And again, it always seems like the better teams prevail in these penalty games, right? Well, because they're better, right? Like that, they don't worry about penalties. They don't harp on penalties. Penalty happens, you continue to play football, continue to go, like make plays, make it happen. And so it's the lowest common denominator, man, just to complain about officiating all the time. And I've been very clear on this. When it's against my team, not my team, I do not blame officials for losses, man. Like that's ridiculous. There's plays to be made all across the field. Zach Wilson dropped a shotgun snap that led to the Chiefs going ahead and winning that game. If he doesn't do that, I know he feels bad about that. He played his best game maybe of his career in this game, but that's a mistake that is an unforced error that has nothing to do with officials. If he just catches that pass, Gabe, now the Chiefs had a free rusher at him, they probably sack him, but nonetheless, if he catches that pass, the snap, I should say, game might be different. And just blaming the officials, I don't know, it's just, I just started blocking people in mass last night on social media. I'm just not going to do it anymore. I'm just not going to have people in my mentions whining about officiating. It's just not going to happen.
Well, you just gave me something to trigger you with the rest of the season. I tend to agree with you.
No,
but
I'm just not going to engage in it anymore.
All right, you just kick me off the show. Well, let me ask you this, because this was occurring to me late in the game when I was texting with Jets friends saying, just go to sleep. Just stop. Don't do this to yourself. There's no chance this quarterback wins this game. It's not happening. And of course, I was right. I don't want to talk about the Jets. I'm curious if you think, let's say something breaks the other way. Forget about the calls. Just Chiefs lose that game. Could have happened. Do you think that today, all we're talking about is the Chiefs brought this on themselves? They brought a circus to town. All of a sudden, the whole world is paying attention to the stuff going on in their suites and their sidelines, and no one is talking about football in Kansas City. Is that going to happen at some point? Because this has been insane for 2 weeks straight.
I don't think that would have been the result of last night. It would have been about the Chiefs basically collapsed and Zach Wilson's good now. Like that would have been the result, I think, of the talk today, because the Chiefs are up 17-0. Like how did that Taylor Swift distract them from? They just were up 17-0. It looked like they just sort of stopped playing football at the same intensity that they had. In the Jets defense, I thought, just played much better. They made some adjustments. They rushed the passer better. They moved a little bit more in front. And the result would have not been, oh my God, Taylor Swift. I do find it funny how people are so angry they keep showing her in the crowd. Who cares? Like, what is it? Why does that bother you? You're not missing any football plays. Would you rather them just show like random coach talking into his headset? Who cares what they show in the breaks game? It's so weird to me. And the NFL's capitalizing on new fans. There are new fans watching the games because Taylor Swift is in the crowd. If you want to call it a marketing ploy, whatever, if this relationship is fake, I do not care. But the people that get so worked up over Taylor Swift being shown on the TV, I think it was like 11 times. Who cares, man? Like, go touch grass. Go take a deep breath. Like, go. Like, who? You're there to watch a football game. Just watch the football game. Like, I'm not even looking at the TV when they're not playing football. Like, I don't get the way people were so angry about this.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, when this isn't really a great reference for you, but when you're growing up and you have a band you like, you think they're kind of like a little unknown, and you got some bootleg tapes, or you feel like you're kind of on the inside of something, and then they get popular and they're playing big festivals, and now everybody's singing their stuff, and you feel like, wait, that thing that was mine got taken from me. I think that's what's happening for some fans.
But the game's still being played, right? So like,
I know. And just like at the music festival, your band's still playing up there, and it shouldn't bother people. I agree, but I get the sentiment.
Instead of cutting again to like player talking to another player on the sideline, some random ad that they're going to run during the middle of a game, the announcer, they're just showing Taylor Swift cheering in the crowd. I said this last week. I don't know if she's a football fan, Gabe, but she sure plays it on like in the boxes. Like she surely is like into the game. I have no idea if she actually is. There was a video I saw of her making fun of. It looked like she was making fun of Travis Kelce after the game. I think it's Blake Lively was there, right? Is that who that was?
Oh yeah.
And it is kind of funny that, and we'll get to football, I swear, that Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, like Hugh Jackman were there, and like they're very famous in their own right. And it was like they were just secondary pieces to Taylor Swift the entire night. It was very funny.
I just like that Ryan Reynolds was there because the Jets are the Wrexham of the NFL and always have been and always will be. So it's fitting that he's watching a fifth-rate, team that shouldn't even be in the league. Let's talk about two good teams, please, in the same division. Right. I think the Taylor Swift stuff, like, it's just not going away anytime soon. Every week we're going to be told about the next time she's coming. We'll have chances to get to it. I have to talk about the Dolphins, and we were all just sort of like writing them to the Super Bowl, and me included. And I kept pressing you. Well, when can we say it's real with Tua? Why do we have to keep qualifying it? That was me for 3 weeks this season. Well, they just got the doors blown off in Buffalo. Emotional day. DeMar Hamlin's back. Josh Allen played great. Like, one of those nice days up in Buffalo. But Geoff, here's my theory to you. Tell me if I'm wrong. The Dolphins, to me, feel a lot like the Lakers of the last couple seasons, where when everything is working, when everyone is healthy and lined up the right way, you're like, oh, well, they're obviously going to win the whole thing. Like, that's a no-brainer. But only like a tiny little bit has to be off for the team to just be a first-round elimination type team. It's just such a fine line between dominant and they're barely even the best team in their division. Am I wrong about that?
That's sort of the NFL, though, right? Like, that's how the NFL is there's a fine line between winning and losing.
How do you put up 70 and then give up 48? Yeah. Like, so come on.
The plus 50 to minus 28 in one weekend essentially is probably the biggest margin in NFL history, right? You go from plus 50, win 70-20, you score 10 offensive touchdowns, to now you go to 48-20 loss at Buffalo. I thought a few things were interesting in this game. One is that it felt to me that Buffalo decided before the game, we're just going to be more physical, we're going to play faster, and we're going to match their energy, right? I mean, when you watch that game, to me, that's what it stood out. It's like Buffalo looked faster and more physical and more dominant, and they came out on a mission to say, hey, look, I know the Dolphins are now the league's darling. They're the favorite in the AFC East. No, we're the favorite in the AFC East. They're coming to our house, and we're going to kick their ass. Now, what was kind of interesting is that each team scored in their first two possessions. Dolphins scored in their third possession. Bills did, 21-14. And then the Bills' defense just played much better. Starting into now I know that some of the offensive linemen for Miami started coming out, but they were more physical on defense. They're getting Tua off their spot. And the Dolphins' offense was just done. Punt, fumble, interception, and then downs 3 straight times to end the game. And I just thought kind of this avalanche of the Bills' defense, which we talked about against the Dolphins, right? The way to get after them is just to out-physical them on offense, right? You have to hit Tua, reroute the wide receivers, and just get in their face. And I felt the defensive adjustment by Buffalo, I don't even know what it was, other than I think they just sort of figured out, like, let's just get after Tua. Let's get in the face of these Dolphins wide receivers. And it worked really well. And I think you're right about, the Dolphins sort of have one gear, I feel like. And if something's a little bit off, that's over. But Buffalo is also pretty good. I mean, they've scored, 38, 36, and 48 now in 3 straight weeks.
Yeah.
And one thing that was pretty noticeable, if you're a Buffalo fan, you have to be pretty excited about this, I feel like, is when Josh Allen doesn't have the YOLO plays, right? When he is just removing that, he still makes incredible throws. He still is able to do things other quarterbacks aren't able to do. But if he just kind of takes away those plays that are the most risky, especially in a game when you're playing well and don't need those plays, the Bills turn into a different team. When Josh Allen tries to YOLO too much and sort of get so in his own way, they're not as good. Now that goes for other teams as well, but it feels very noticeable with this quarterback that when they're playing like this, it's hard to beat them. Any team in the NFL to beat them. And so I was impressed by Buffalo, especially on defense, man. They don't even have Von Miller yet. Like the ability to hit Tua was very impressive.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to run into them, and obviously everyone will always talk about their home field advantage. The team that I think, at least I know I have spent no time thinking about, that very likely is going to be a top 4 seed in the playoffs and maybe get some home games, and maybe we're going to be talking about them the back half of the season, is the Ravens. I mean, granted, like I'm not sure every win they have is against a team we care about, but like Lamar's back and seems to want to play. No matter who's in the backfield with him, they seem to be able to move the ball. Defense, coaching, Ravens, Bengals obviously have fallen off the map. Steelers suck. Browns suck.
Yeah,
and they're going to win the division. Can they make a move in the playoffs?
Well, they just lost the Colts last week, right? So, like, I don't know.
I know. I'm not crowning them. I'm just saying, like, that division is completely wide open. If Burrow's going to be, he's clearly hurt, right?
I don't think it's wide open. I think it's the Ravens to lose now, right?
Right.
Burrow is hurt. I think there's legitimate talk about them having to just sit him down. I think I have this right. It's Arizona, Seattle bye week, and then I think I wrote about this last night. It's like Niners, Bills, easier team, and then it's like at the Ravens. So like the Bengals got to figure this out. Like either we shut them down or we just hope for the best going forward. The Browns, look, their defense is good. Obviously, they have Watson yesterday. They're okay. They're a good team. And then the Steelers are just a wreck. Matt and I in our preview were totally wrong about Pittsburgh, and Kenny Pickett's now out for a little bit of time. They're a wreck. And so it does seem like this is the Dolphins division to have. They need guys back from injury. They're so injured each and every year, which again continues to be a theme for them. It feels like now for years and years. But do I have them, beating Kansas City, beating Buffalo, beating Miami in the playoffs to run all the way through? Probably not. But they're 3-1. Like they're doing what they have to do to maintain, an ability to have a home field advantage or be able to do that throughout the playoffs.
It's pretty incredible how just 1 or 2 seasons, we all, the media pack, just move to a new fun thing to talk about. And Lamar isn't it any longer. It's not a lot of drama with him now. Deal's done. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So we're just like, yeah, he's good. And like, remember, it was just a couple seasons ago, we would scrutinize everything the dude did, every win and loss, every snap he took, every slide he didn't make. And here we are just like, yeah, he'll be a playoff quarterback. He'll probably win a game or 2 in the playoffs. It's interesting. Let's talk about some teams who are not as obviously headed there. And I can't spend every week of this season saying the same 2 things. Justin Herbert is clearly awesome. Brandon Staley is like glitchy ChatGPT. I don't know what to do about that team. They easily could have lost a game they should have blown out the Raiders in. Are they going to make a move or not?
Every Chargers game is the exact same. It's the exact same, Gabe. By the way, Ian Rappaport reported that Justin Herbert suffered a fractured finger on his left non-throwing hand. That felt pretty obvious.
Yeah,
the finger suffered a gruesome nail injury. I don't know. What does a gruesome nail injury look like? So they have a bye, and he'll play. Obviously, he'll be just fine. At least Brandon Staley is consistent, right? Going for it on 4th down. But like the Chargers have a quarterback. I mean, that last throw of the game by Herbert was incredible. How many quarterbacks in the NFL make that throw?
No.
Maybe Mahomes, Josh Allen. Like that's it. That's it, right? Herbert, Josh Allen, and Mahomes. But the zip on that ball is only Justin Herbert. I think Josh Allen can do that. Like he is so good, Gabe. And the Chargers offense is so clearly better than they were previous years with Kellen Moore in charge and without Austin Eckler, right? He hasn't played in 2 weeks. They're so much better. But every game, they just do enough stupid shit to keep the opponent in the game. So they go for it on 4th down, again, with a quarterback who has a busted hand, right? Against a rookie, Aiden O'Connell on the Raiders, playing his first game ever. Down 7. Just punt the ball and make him go 80 yards to tie the game. By the way, Khalil Mack had 6 sacks at that point of the game, right? Like, your pass rush was winning. You only allowed 17 points. And then, Gabe, they get stuffed on 4th down. They don't call it those interception, which you could have done, by the way, at the minus 20-yard line. And the cornerback falls down because Staley's telling him to go down. The game wasn't over yet.
Did they catch Staley doing it?
Yes.
That's important.
It wasn't over yet. Score a freaking touchdown, go up 2 scores, and the game is over. Be done with it, right? Like, it's a dumb football team. It doesn't have dumb players, but they do not play football in a way that is smart. And that is why they're at where they're at. And when you are a team that plays the way they play, guess whose fault that is? The head coach's fault. It's the head coach's fault.
That's why I'm calling him glitchy ChatGPT. It's not dumb. It's just like, no, that's not what you do there. Like, that would be accurate in a completely different context and setting. Sliding down inbounds after an interception that clinches a game makes sense with 3 snaps to go, not with 2.5 minutes to play and some timeouts. Like, that's where the glitches come in.
Yeah, it's not good, man. And it seems like they just routinely have these games where you're like, come, coach, what are we doing? And how much longer are they going to be able to do this with him? I don't know, man.
I just got done watching Winning Time, the Lakers series, and I know you know that era.
I actually didn't watch the last episode because I saw the show was canceled. I already know how that season ends. Am I being lame for not watching the final episode?
Well, you should watch the final episode just to complete it, because what the hell else are you doing on a Tuesday night? But here's what I'll say: Jerry Buss made a choice at some point, which was, I got to get a coach who can work with Magic Johnson, or this is all pointless. Like, that's the choice he made. And so, and look at, history says that was the right choice. That's what's got to happen with the Chargers. Like, I'm not sure Brandon Staley's a terrible coach overall. I don't mean he shouldn't have a job with a winning team, but like, you got to get someone who can maximize Justin Herbert in his prime, or we're going to be wasting one of the most talented quarterbacks any of us have ever seen. It's crazy. Speaking of which, a complete lack of quarterback talent and a coach who might be fading. I'm so happy to bring it up. Bill Belichick, with his worst loss ever as the Patriots coach, benches Mac Jones for Bailey Zappi, gets the absolute crap kicked out of him by the Cowboys, which is just funny in and of itself. At what point do we start to hear little bits and pieces of Belichick's thinking of retiring, Kraft is thinking about the next generation, and then when do the fun rumors of like Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams could come to town, Dion and Shador could come to town? When does the like future of New England become chaotic and fun to talk about?
It's happening soon. I just think the Patriots are a boring team, and I think people don't want to cover boring teams. Like the Jets are boring, but also sort of like a dumpster fire, right? So they get covered. The Bears are boring, but the dumpster fire, so they get covered. The Patriots are boring, but not a dumpster fire, so like they're just getting ignored, right? Like they're just boring. I don't know if this stat is true or not.
They're a dumpster fire. Let's call them what they are. They're a dumpster fire.
Yeah, but they've won 6 championships in the last 20 years. So people ignore that as a dumpster fire. Then Michael Lombardi tweeted this out. I don't know if it's true or not. It sounds dumb because I don't think they've been underdogs in only 11 games of Mac Jones's career. But he's 0-11 as underdog in his career.
I've seen that from our buddy John Ewing as well. So
okay, so it's true then. Okay, that's crazy. He started 35 games, I think, and been only underdog in 11 of them. That's kind of crazy.
Well, the Patriots always always favored at home, it seems.
But he's 0-11, which means he doesn't which we know this already, right? He doesn't elevate his team, right? He doesn't make his team better in critical moments.
It's terrible.
He's bad. Mock draft today I saw from PFF had Bo Nix, Oregon's Bo Nix, going the Patriots at 8, which is sort of Mac Jones, but can run a little bit. It's kind of interesting. Like he's got a much better arm than Mac Jones. I'll give him that. That would be a fascinating pairing. I think we're getting into it soon about the Belichick like retiring. Is he done soon? Because I don't know. Are they going to let him draft another quarterback? I guess maybe. So when Belichick does a podcast post retirement, are you gonna host it?
I would love to do that. If I could just host a show where I just yell at Coach Belichick and then he yells back, and I would recognize that 99.9% of the audience would want him to kick the crap out of me, I'd still do that. That would be a ton of fun. You're not mean enough, Geoff. You're very nice. Even when you get upset about officials and people complaining and telling us you're blocking them, you're still a very nice person. Belichick doesn't strike me as a nice guy.
I checked the stream on Twitter of our show to make sure it was working properly. We're on live on Twitter right now. I saw someone commented complaining about the officials had blocked them during our show.
Good job. Prolific.
Just be gone. I just want to make sure the stream, was up and working properly, so I can do two things at once.
Well, good. You know what? That reminds me, a nice segue here. You know who cannot seemingly do two things at once? Whoever's in charge of the clock for Deion Sanders. I don't know if that's his OC or he's got a clock guy. It's certainly clear to me, and no shade against Deion, but he's not the one managing that. What a botched comeback attempt by Colorado. I was happy because USC won a game. Should have been a blowout. Really should have been a 3-score win. Ended up being a 1-score game. The USC defense still terrible. Let's just call it what it is. But Colorado kind of missed their chance there, not saving timeouts, not managing the clock correctly. Didn't give themselves much of a chance. And now all of a sudden, it's midnight, right? They're a pumpkin again. You've sort of told us what you expected for them overall this season, but what did you think of the USC side of the ball and the way that Colorado kind of helped them to a win?
It's interesting with Colorado because in the first game of the season, they had no penalties. They were it was so much better than I thought it would be, and now they've sort of slowly reverted back to just sort of having penalties and mismanaging some situations. But that's all part of, I think, a new coaching staff together for the first time. Like if I told you this wasn't Colorado, this was Tulsa, brand new staff, you'd be like, yeah, they're going to have some procedural issues throughout the season. This is the first time all year, I guess the second time where they had to sort of come back at the end of game. The Colorado State game, they weren't down that much, but in this game, they just needed to score and score and score and score. So I've been impressed by Deion, though. I've said this the entire time, they're better than I thought they would be, and they beat TCU. I thought they would get blown out these last 2 weeks. They haven't. They did once. They did not against USC. But I've been impressed by his ability to sort of get things going in the right direction as quickly as I think they generally are well coached. I really do believe that. If you look at and the adjustments made in the offense from the Oregon game to the USC game, Gabe, we do this. I think I'm different than a lot of people that talk about football for a couple of reasons. One is the hot take thing I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to RG3 things that just say shit that comes to my head for no apparent reason and just say things that make no sense, but just to be on television, right? Whatever.
Okay. Yeah, he's good.
Another thing too is another thing is that I think precedent is a good way to look at the future of your team, of a game, right? So for example, we have 5 years heading into this season, maybe it was 4 years, of Alex Grinch as the defensive coordinator with Lincoln Riley. And for those years, what?
I don't like where you're going with this.
And for 4 years, I think it's 4. It might be 5. It doesn't matter. For all those years, what did we see? Lincoln Riley's offense is scoring a bazillion points, and Alex Grinch's defense is giving up a bazillion points. All right?
Yeah.
And so I looked at that now 4-year sample size at the minimum. And I said, hey, you know what? Year 5, it's probably the same thing. And USC fans said, no, we got Bear Alexander and we got Anthony Lucas and we're going to be different. And I'm like, guys, Oklahoma also had good players on defense. It's not the players. It's the coach. And it's also this, Gabe. It's also this. This is important, okay? A lot of times offensive coaches, head coaches, struggle with putting together good defenses because you have to sort of gear your practice to the defense and wanting to be physical and wanting to hit and doing things to make your team better on defense at practice. That often takes away opportunities for your offense to practice how you want to practice. Lincoln Riley's practices do not stress the things that help your defense be better on Saturdays. It's not his fault per se, but that's just the truth of it, right? Again, no surprise that the best defenses in the sport are led by defensive-minded head coaches. There's no surprise, right? And they have to go out of their way at times to hire offensive coaches. And a lot of times those defensive guys just stay the hell away from the offense. Like you do your thing on offense, I'll coach defense. Offensive coaches tend to get a little bit more involved in the kind of entirety of the team. And so that's part of it, right? It's like, I know this is a very small example. Lincoln Riley this year in spring practice canceled a practice because they didn't have enough bodies on offense to practice. And my thought is, you have 100 players, you have enough guys to practice. You can figure it out. And then they made up that practice later, but that's sort of the mentality, right? Like, is Alabama going to cancel spring practice because wide receivers are hurt or offensive linemen? No, they're going to figure it the fuck out in practice, right? Is Georgia going to do that? No, but USC is like, you know what? I don't want to. We'll make it up later. And like that mentality hurts a team like USC. USC has to play Notre Dame, Utah, Cal, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA in a 6-game stretch starting October 14th. Good luck, USC. Have fun with that, with that stretch. Like, they're going to score a ton of points, but they can't stop a nosebleed. Like, it's so frustrating. And like, I hate USC, so I'm glad this is happening. But like, I can objectively say this. I thought they'd be 10-2 this year. So what I predicted, because of their defense. Like, you have to want to be good on defense. And another college football thing that along the same lines, I thought interesting. So right now, Oregon and Oklahoma have top 20. I think Oregon's 21, Oklahoma's 19 in efficiency on defense. And I find it so odd that the talk this offseason was Dan Lanning, Oregon, Brent Venables, Oklahoma, that they had poor defenses in week one. They were going to stink moving forward, year one, and stink going forward. And they kind of figured it out, right? Like, good coaches figure it out. We have to sometimes reserve our judgment and let coaches in college football get their own guys in the building. And so I look at priors, man. I look at like, hey, man, USC and Alex Grinch and Lincoln Riley. I think I saw a number that the over in Lincoln Riley games is like at 70%. Like, it's the same team every year, Gabe.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. And I started to feel it. A lot of Saturday felt like watching a Utah game or that Tulane game where you're like, what's happening right now? How is this a game? Why is there so much time left on the clock with the lead shrinking? What's going on right now? I do think some of it is the offense helping the defense and just moving a little bit more methodically. And they have, a couple running backs now who can get you 5 yards a carry. Like, there's no reason why they can't put a few, just, you tell me what the right terminology is, but just run it up between the tackles and smash your way to 4, 5, 6 yards. Why can't we do that? Just eat clock.
So this is a pet peeve of mine with these RPO offenses. It's nothing to do with I text my Oregon friends about this all the time. The RPO offense sometimes, it's a box count thing, right? If the box count's bad, they're gonna throw the ball. But sometimes you just need to freaking run the football. Like, call it and run it and go with it. And I think these RPO offenses sometimes really frustrate me because there are times when teams pressure that you can actually gash in the run game. If you're an offensive lineman, you're able to cut the pressure off if someone's slanting. And this is USC's problem, by the way. USC slants out of everything on defense. And there's a huge crease because an offensive lineman sort of gets in the way, cuts someone off, and boom, there's no linebacker. And I just think teams sometimes with this RPO stuff, it frustrates me when they just don't run the football.
Yeah, well, same here because Marshawn Lloyd looks like he can run, and it doesn't.
He's really good, dude.
Caleb. He can. He's really good. Hit you too. Like, they don't need it to be all Caleb all the time. So maybe they'll get a chance or two. But the Notre Dame game is going to be a real test at South Bend. But all right, let's do this, Geoff. For the audio listeners later, not the live people right now, we're going to throw a quick break here. We've got to make some Monday night picks.
Yes,
got a couple other quick topics to get to. So let's. If you're watching live, stick with us. If you're listening, here's your break. Come back on the other side, get Geoff's picks. Geoff, we're back. You're the star of this show. Why don't you tell me what you're looking at for Monday Night Football?
Monday Night Football tonight for Seattle and the Giants. Seattle is our pick for our contest. We think they're going to win this game. So I'm going to build my prize pick square around this. I have I always do typically 3 entries. I do this, by the way, for college football, for the NFL, like not just on Monday Night Football. It's a lot of fun to do. Throw a couple dollars, just a way to sort of play, a little fantasy, a little this and that. It's a ton of fun. So use the code GSSY to play tonight as well. So here's my score. I have 3 of them. You ready? Okay.
Yep.
Daniel Jones, more than 34.5 rushing yards. The Giants have had a lot of time to sort of think about how they want to play an offense, right? And I really feel like we're going to see them sort of get back to a little bit of what they did last year, where they rely more on the zone reads, the RPOs, and using Daniel Jones in the run game tonight, right? Kind of get back to what they did last season, not try to justify the contract by having him throw a bunch of times, just like what the Giants did last season. And I think that this is an opportunity tonight to make that happen. So along those same lines, if Daniel Jones is going to run the ball more, I have Matt Breida, their running back, less than 47.5 rushing yards. They tend to not run the ball terribly well without Saquon Barkley in the lineup, and it's doubtful he plays. Plus, Matt Breida has not been over 47 yards in a game. Now, again, he's not been starting, so like it's not a thing where he doesn't really have the opportunity to do this. But one time in the last 2.5 years, like he's not a high carry guy. He's not a high yardage guy. So to me, I think Daniel Jones rushes for more, and that means Matt Breida rushes for less. And then I have Geno Smith more than 248.5 passing yards. Geno Smith is going to play well against this Giants pass rush who, the pass defense is okay, but the pass rush doesn't really affect the game very much. So I think we see Geno Smith being able to throw the ball down the field, make enough plays. So I'll go with more than 248.5 yards for Geno Smith. So Daniel Jones, more rushing yards, Matt Breida, less rushing yards, and Geno Smith, more passing yards. Remember, I've won 2 in a row, so I'm hoping to make this go for 3 for 3 tonight. Hope you guys enjoy the game. Gabe, any last thoughts, Gabe?
No, I like your pick. I like Geno going more because, while Geno is not one of those fiery guys who tries to make enemies, he played in that building and he read a lot of mean headlines about him when he was in New York, and he even played for that team. Like, he might be quieter about it, but I think he has something to prove every time he goes back to New York. So I like him, throwing for a few extra yards and maybe making it hurt a little bit in the fourth quarter when they could let their foot off the gas. I don't think he will.
No, I'm with you there. Yeah, I forgot about the building thing, right? Also, Daniel Jones is 1-11, I believe, in primetime games. It's the same, this idea, like, it's not all his fault. Maybe not. Who's really good in primetime games over his career? Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Tom Brady was.
Well, the refs help him with that. So.
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah. The refs do. You know what? The last thing, too, is there are people that go on social media and actually think that, like, Patrick Mahomes knew the spread and slid down at the end of the game to not cover the spread, and, like, Vegas made a call. Like, what do we do? So Vegas calls who? Like, the Chiefs owner who calls Andy Reid, who talks to him on the headset, who then talks to Matt Nagy, who actually physically calls the play into Patrick Mahomes. And Matt Nagy says, like, hey, guys, West right, 2-jet, all go special. But Mahomes, if you scramble on this play, make sure you fall before the end zone. Ready, break. Like what are we doing? Why do we live this way? Why? Social media doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to, like, just be oh, God, it's so frustrating.
The name of the show is Geoff Schwartz is Smarter Than You. And he's also apparently more exasperated by stupidity than most of us. So smarten up, everyone. Use Jeff's picks. I think we're going to make some money tonight if we do.
I think we are too.
Good job picking on the season overall. You're winner right now. Thank you for
Pac-12
filling me
well.
in. Yeah,
I'm 12,
everything's
12
going well in our
12,
football life.
Yeah, it's going well, except you're a Jets fan, so it's not like going that great.
I'm not a Jets fan. Just cut it out, okay? We're done for the day, Jeff. Sign off the way you like. Make sure these people can go on with their Monday.
GSSY is the promo code for Prize Picks. Join us tonight for the Square from Monday Night Football. Take care, everyone. We'll be back on Friday with another wagering episode. Hopefully the Seahawks cover tonight will be 4-0 and Broncos. All right, guys, take care. Have a good one.